The history of video games is littered with titles that were average on release, owing to game-breaking, bug-filled experiences, distinct lack of content, or a misconception which unfairly derided a game before it even hit the stores. In the modern era, however, subsequently patching a game to realize its pre-release promise has become commonplace. And while this practice isn't excusable, it does mean that some games that underwhelmed at launch can become deserving of second chances. So here are 15 such games. Cyberpunk 2077. Have you heard? Cyberpunk 2077 is good now. Or at least the game it should have been instead of the dumpster fire that ranks amongst the most high-profile game launch disasters back in 2020. CD Projekt Red have been furrowing away since, releasing a string of excellent updates which not only present Night City in a playable state, but overhaul, rebalance, and improve combat, net running capability, skill progression, cyberware integration, vehicle handling, and so on. Together with the thrilling Phantom Liberty DLC, Cyberpunk 2077 is a phoenix risen from the ashes. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was a decent enough action shooter on launch, but developers DICE, overly concerned that this sequel wouldn't capitalize on its predecessor's success, opted to lock the franchise's most storied heroes behind insurmountable pay-to-win progression. It took a year post-launch before Battlefront 2 became a welcoming prospect. All but gone were loot boxes, with these updates also decluttering customization while bringing new, attainable heroes. Updates may have continued were it not for the pandemic, but as it was left, Battlefront 2 ticks almost all of its boxes. Final Fantasy XV. A likable yet a flawed game, Final Fantasy XV's tale of road-tripping bros was heartfelt, yet its narrative suffered from uneven pacing, a tightening gameplay structure, and breakable combat. Final Fantasy XV Royal Edition provided numerous improvements to structure and late-game progression, added lore to support deeper emotional payoff, and tweaked gameplay with additions such as newly switchable characters. It's still not perfect, but since Royal Edition, there's more diamonds in the rough than not. Dying Light 2. The much-hyped Dying Light 2 released to a mixed reception, with detractors lamenting the floating feeling behind the principal feature, its parkour. A shallow story and smattering of bugs also disappointed many. While the former is largely set in stone, Techland have released a mountain of updates in the years since, which brought many players who initially bounced back into the fold. Weightier free-running, more visceral animations, sleeker combat, and a handful of new story elements means Dying Light 2 is worthy of a second chance. No Man's Sky. In business, it's better to under-promise and over-deliver. Well, No Man's Sky, when released, did the exact opposite. Promises of a universe's worth of uncharted planets were sort of true, but there wasn't anything of much to do throughout the cosmos, and it certainly stung that should you opt for a spot of interstellar travel, you'd be doing it alone as multiplayer was absent despite being confirmed pre-launch. 9 years later, and No Man's Sky is a picture of post-launch redemption. Its latest update, Worlds Part 2, adds gas giants and water worlds, plus the ability for spacefarers to create their own system of planets. Destiny 2. Crumbling under the weight of high expectation, Destiny 2's early years were rocky. A lack of content, middling story, especially in Season 1's DLC, and unengaging endgame left much work for Bungie to undertake to ensure that their sci-fi shooter sequel had longevity. Foundational gunplay was always excellent though, so it was only a matter of time before Destiny 2 grew into the dominating FPS that it is today. Starting with Forsaken a year post-launch, complex lore, interesting stories, and show-stopping set pieces have become commonplace in Destiny 2. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege has grown into one of the most played multiplayer shooters of all time, and a major esports title to boot. Because of this, it's easy to forget the controversy which shadowed the game's early days. Derided was the lack of single-player campaign, but a shortage of maps and operators drew the most criticism. Overhauled gameplay, an expanded roster, and a wealth of superbly designed maps saved Siege when, at one stage, the developer contemplated taking it offline, Concord style. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Putting my night goggles on.
Reacher on the objective. Copy, boss. Moving. Rog, moving in.
I called my sister last night, but I couldn't get through.
Standing by to fire. Enemy position marked there. Targets eliminated.
A significant downgrade on predecessor Wildlands, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint looked incredible, but suffered a launch window mired by broken mechanics and poor mission design. An annoying, grindy gear acquisition system was the icing on a stale cake. But much like Rainbow Six Siege, updates were bountiful. Immersive modes eschewing RPG-alike grind, numerous customization options skewed towards boosting immersion, and essentially a more focused second campaign, Operation Motherland, contributed to Breakpoint surpassing Wildlands in almost every way. Days Gone. Critically, Days Gone was a failure, with reviewers citing mission design and a slew of technical hiccups as causes for concern. Days Gone's players were always much kinder though, with a scenic, zombie-ravaged Oregon the perfect playground to funnel colossal hordes of freakers to certain satisfactory doom. Technical issues have all but been resolved, yet Days Gone's reputation remains. With a remastered version on the horizon, now's the perfect time to give Days Gone a chance if you were put off by its critical reception the first time around. Battlefield 2042. There was concern before anyone even stepped foot into battle with Battlefield 2042 owing to EA's decision to forego a single-player campaign and class-based systems. On launch, shoddy balancing, server issues, and a lack of content rendered Battlefield 2042 a prospect unworthy of your time. However, a mass of post-release patches have transformed the game, with reintroduced classes, technical fixes, and a wealth of content giving Battlefield 2042 a second life. Fallout 76. It seemed unfathomable given initial reception that Bethesda's stab at a multiplayer Fallout game would eventually amass its millions-strong player base. But thanks to a slate of post-release fixes to rudderless progression, game-breaking bugs, and strangely absent NPCs, Fallout 76 is in great shape. Furthermore, owing to dropping the largely unpopular voice protagonist and dumbed-down dialogue of 4 to replace with immersive, open-world exploration, 76 is Fallout at its most cerebral. Sea of Thieves. A constant theme in this rundown are games with a dearth of content on release, with Sea of Thieves typifying this more than most. Praised for its picturesque ocean vistas, exploration has always been an enticing prospect. However, putting 3 sheets to the wind was rarely fulfilling. Sail here, plunder treasure, repeat ad infinitum. Consistent updates and free content have transformed Sea of Thieves. There's genuine interest wherever your galleon drops its anchor. Star Wars Outlaws. The discourse surrounding Star Wars Outlaws is strange. Reviewers pointed out its true unpolished nature post-release, with poor AI and low sales dampening Outlaws' reputation even further. However, while this game isn't a world beater, the myriad of locations and urban interiors featured feel authentically Star Wars, with a serviceable story told through the eyes of someone whose destiny isn't shaped by the Force. If you're into Star Wars, take Outlaws fair criticism, but this is one to try again. Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. A trio of seminal open-world romps marketed to behave much like Rockstar's cash cow Grand Theft Auto 5, but playing worse than their original early-aughts counterparts, was always going to garner mass discontent. The Definitive Edition, these 3 classics certainly weren't. One of the most contentious absences was the hazy vibe of GTA 3 San Andreas. So it's with good reason the fog bathing the West Coast was featured so prominently in late 2024's update. If you don't own the originals, this update has made the Definitive Edition worth getting. Assassin's Creed Unity. A game crushed by its own ambition. 2014's Unity caused Assassin's Creed's reputation to plummet, with follow-up Syndicate coming a year later, bearing the brunt of players burnt by Unity's technical fallacies, from game-crashing bugs to bizarre face-erasing textures. Now, in the time since release, Assassin's Creed Unity has been patched to within an inch of its life, and together with modern hardware, presents the freewheeling jaunt through Paris as one of the best entries in the long-running stealth series.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.